in this state have adopted this code.
And so we're in compliance with the state guidelines and regulations.
We're in compliance to a certain degree. However, based on the dollar amount that was in the old code, which we have to update and prepare the internal purchasing procedures, that is why we need to address that. That is why we need approval to move forward.
What's the current policy that's in effect today that relates to the procurement code?
The current policy as written does not delegate a dollar amount to come to the board. However, because out of respect, we are still operating under that dollar amount because the internal purchasing procedures have not been approved.
I guess that's my question. The current policy does not say anything about a dollar amount. The old internal operating procedures did. So if we didn't change the policy tonight and came back at a later date, we would still be in compliance with the state procurement regulators, right?
Again, to a certain degree, not 100%.
But that's because of the internal operating procedures, not this policy, right?
And the internal operating procedures were written, outlined in the new model code, which we adopted May 10th. So, out of respect, as I just stated, we're not pursuing any dollar amount other than what was outlined in the old code. We're not changing that out of respect because that's the autonomy of the superintendent.
I guess, Dr. Witherspoon, I'd ask this. I mean, I don't want the board to slow down contracts for folks. And I know, and I suspect from talking to folks in the administration over the years that one of the reasons that administrations get frustrated by board having to approve them is it can slow it down. Totally get that. I've only been here a year. We haven't voted no on any contract. And so, I don't think that the vote has been the thing that's been the most important part. I think it's been the discussion about the contracts in public. Would it be possible to include in this that you simply post to board docs for every school board meeting any new contract that's been entered into as an information item so that we can just have a discussion about them in public but not in a quarterly fashion because there's just going to be so many, but just do it like we do now, except there won't be votes on them until y'all get the internal operating procedures and come up with a dollar amount. But that going forward, we just put the contracts on board docs for each meeting as an information item that we could talk about. Is that a problem?
Let's take a look at that process. We will certainly look at that.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, hearing none, we will call for the vote, and the vote is electronic.
Commissioner Chairman Harris, I hesitate to do this, but I'm going to move to table this until we've gotten an answer, until we've gotten something that we can include in this policy from Dr. Witherspoon about providing the contracts at each board meeting. I don't think that we have to approve this tonight, so I'm going to move to table this until we've gotten those further answers so that we can include anything else if we need to.
Second. She called for the vote, so like for me, I already voted, but she said we move the vote.
Mr. Devine, please, he raised his hand.
I did raise my hand and then I had to say something to get recognized.
Let's not do that.
I hear it, but I already, she said we called for the vote came up, and I'm just telling you, like, I've already voted. So you were in the process of voting.
I would renew my motion to table this until we get more answers so that we can incorporate anything that we need to in this policy once we've gotten that additional information.
And I'll second that.
But you're in the middle of voting.
We-
You can't have a motion. Once you call for the vote, you got to vote it up or vote it down, or either abstain.
We're already in the process of voting.
I'm going to renew my motion to
and-
table it until
I-
such time we've got more information.
And I called for the vote, Mr. Lomanak, and there were no hands raised when I called for the vote. Then your hand went up. I didn't want to, because I'm not going to get into this bickering tonight. It's not. This is about children.
What's in the
So
best interest?
Miss King.
What's in the best interest? That's the question.
What's in the best interest of the children is doing right by the children.
Yeah.
And this discussion, Ms. King, we've had this discussion since May. And we're not gonna go back and forth tonight because that's unprofessional. But at the end of the day, I had to pull in Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Devine for your committee meeting because our secretary couldn't get you on the phone to discuss this. So it's okay, to not want to support this, But I heard our procurement manager tell us we are not in complete compliance right now. The things that Mr. Lobnat is asking for, I don't knock what he's asking for, but that is a part of the administrative rule. That's how we would carry this out. That the superintendent adds in the rule that, hey, I'm gonna post these items and you will be able to verify the items or we can have discussion, etc. That's not policy. The policy is different from the way we carry out the administrative rule, and that's not done by us. It's good food for thought for the superintendent to go back with his folk and put together an administrative rule that will include the things that you're asking for. But the policy is on a whole nother level. Now, we've called for the vote, and the vote is in progress right now.
Ms. Harris,
So
you've
I'm
allowed,
going to ask that we vote.
Ms. Harris, you've allowed yourself to have a discussion, even though you called for the vote. That's what you just did. So you broke the rule too.
Ms. King, the discussion was over. There was a pause. There were no hands raised. I looked to my left and to my right, and I said, I'll call for the vote. When by the time I said I called for the vote, at that time, Mr. Lomanak put his hand up. Now let's be fair. I looked, and there were no hands raised when I called for the vote. But I am asking that Dr. Witherspoon, as it's been requested by the board, that in the administrative rule, it includes the things that have been asked. That I think that point has been made tonight, that there are some concerns about the way we carry out the administrative rule side of this. They don't have to put a dollar amount because the state didn't mandate that. But because he heard the concerns of this board, and it wasn't just one or two, because in the committees, this has been shared by several board members. He is putting it in the administrative rule. Everything we just talked about tonight. So again, the vote is in progress. Ms. Marietta? Go ahead. I can't hear you. You waiting on one vote? Okay.
I've hit it repeatedly, but there it went.
I can't see. Let the record reflect that the motion did pass and the vote is 5 yeas and 2 nays. Thank you so much, Ms. Alton.
Thank you.